What if the Great Lakes $7 billion fishing industry was at risk from a fish that can jump 10 feet out of water? These invasive Asian carp can grow up to 100 pounds and outcompete native species for food. A single female lays 1 to 2 million eggs annually, enough to double populations in just months. They've already traveled 620 miles upstream toward the Great Lakes, just 20 miles from Lake Michigan. But here's what truly shocks: these fish make a loud, human-like grunting noise to communicate. That grunting hits 95 decibels, louder than a lawnmower. And scientists still can't explain why they do it. What if I told you 20 million tons of radioactive waste are trapped in a crumbling Soviet sarcophagus that's slowly disintegrating? The 1986 explosion released 400 times more radiation than Hiroshima's bomb, enough to contaminate 20% of Europe's forests. A 108-meter steel dome now shelters the core, but 50,000 tons of molten fuel debris still burn inside like a radioactive time bomb. This waste will remain lethally radioactive for 20,000 years, longer than human civilization has existed. And here's the twist: self-sustaining robots now monitor the site 24/7, humans can't survive there for more than 10 minutes. A place where time stands still, and even machines fear to tread. Did you know Lake Erie's algae is 2,000 times deadlier than safe limits? In 2014, toxic blooms left 500,000 people stranded without drinking water for days. Microcystin levels here routinely hit 2,000 times the World Health Organization's safety threshold. Annual blooms now cover 2,000 plus square miles, that's 30,000 football fields in one toxic spread. This algae produces a neurotoxin that can kill a dog in 15 minutes. And scientists still can't stop it from spreading. What if a fish could destroy entire ecosystems in just 2 years? A single lionfish can devour 30,000 plus fish per acre in just 24 hours, erasing entire reef populations overnight. With no natural predators, their populations grow 20% every month, doubling in just 3.5 weeks. Since 1985, they've invaded 25,000 plus square miles of Caribbean reefs, more than 10,000 times the size of Manhattan. Even their eggs fight back, coated in toxic mucus that repels sharks, eels, and every other reef predator. And scientists still can't explain why this mucus evolved, or what else it might be capable of. What if the snowfall you're seeing isn't just winter, it's plastic? Alpine snow contains 1.7 million plastic particles per liter, enough to fill a soda can with microplastics in every liter of meltwater. Each square meter of glacier ice holds 12,000 microplastics, carried 3,000 miles from cities to these remote peaks. As glaciers melt, 22,000 tons of plastic enter alpine ecosystems every year, poisoning rivers and wildlife. And here's what haunts scientists: plastic found frozen in Arctic ice formed before 1946, decades before anyone knew plastic was a problem. What else have we buried in the ice, waiting to resurface? What if the ocean floor was being stripped bare, with no laws to stop it? The Clipperton Zone spans 4.5 million square kilometers, larger than India, and sits untouched, for now. Mining here could unleash 1 billion tons of sediment, suffocating marine life for decades. 90% of species here exist nowhere else on Earth, and 80% haven't even been discovered. Yet companies already lease plots the size of Manhattan, with no environmental rules whatsoever. And scientists still can't explain how these creatures survive, let alone recover. What if the solution to plastic pollution is already here, but it's useless in landfills? One enzyme can shred a plastic bottle in just 10 hours, under perfect lab conditions. But 11 million tons of plastic flood U.S. landfills yearly. These enzymes touch less than 0.1%. They work at 90% efficiency, but only at 180 degrees Fahrenheit, 3x hotter than most landfills get. And here's the twist, these enzymes create microplastics 10x more toxic than the original plastic. A solution that makes pollution deadlier, science's worst kind of paradox. 45,000 bridges in the US are on the brink of collapse. But what if the solution was hiding in plain sight? Scientists discovered bacteria that sleep for over 20 years inside concrete cracks, waiting for water to awaken them. When activated, these microbes produce limestone in 24 hours, sealing cracks stronger than original concrete. The global market for this living concrete could explode to $1.3 billion by 2030, rebuilding cities from the inside out. But in one lab test, cracks vanished completely in under 5 minutes, faster than human eyes can track. What else in our world is quietly fixing itself while we watch? Did you know 5 million insects live under every city block? Their colonies dig labyrinthine nests up to 20 feet deep in concrete cracks, creating underground metropolises we can't even see. These urban engineers recycle human waste at 3 times the rate of composting worms, turning trash into treasure 24/7. A single square meter hosts over 1,200 insect species, more biodiversity than an entire rainforest floor. In just 6 months, they've evolved to eat plastic, a trait scientists are racing to replicate. What other superpowers are hiding in the concrete beneath your feet? What if a plant could double in size every 12 days and suffocate an entire ecosystem? In Lake Victoria, these invaders now cover 10% of the 68,000 square kilometers water surface, equivalent to 6,800 football fields smothered in green. Growing 2.5 centimeters daily, the plants form 3-meter-thick blankets that block sunlight and steal oxygen from the water. Fish populations plummeted by 40% as spawning grounds vanished under this living carpet. Here's the twist. This African ecological crisis began when a single potted plant arrived in Uganda through a flower show in 1986. What seems like harmless decoration can become nature's most aggressive takeover artist. What if something invisible is sabotaging Earth's shield? 10 tons of banned ozone killers are smuggled every single year. CFC-11 levels mysteriously jumped 6% since 2018, despite being globally banned for destroying ozone. Over 40,000 tons of these illegal chemicals are produced annually in shadow markets, enough to punch 400 million holes in our sky shield. 1 kilogram of these toxins can erase 10,000 square meters of ozone, like burning a hole the size of a football field. And here's the kicker, fake car air fresheners in some regions hide these banned killers. Check labels, or don't breathe easy. What else are we breathing in that shouldn't exist? Did you know 3,000 remote villages now mine crypto, draining 2.5 trillion kilowatt-hours yearly, more than Sweden? These operations consume 2.5 trillion kilowatt-hours annually, equivalent to Sweden's total energy use. In rural Colombia, 15,000+ miners use 80% of the country's electricity, powered by diesel generators. Deforestation rates spike 300% near mining hubs as generators demand constant fuel. The energy used by these mines could power Norway for an entire year, yet most miners earn less than $2 per day. What's the real cost when progress leaves a trail of empty wallets and burned forests? Did you know 1 in 5 U.S. landfills is now a thriving forest? Nature's reclaiming the wasteland, literally. In New Jersey's landfill forest, trees blanket 80% of capped garbage pits, some over 100 feet deep. The soil here holds 10 times more heavy metals than normal Earth, yet oaks and maples thrive, some over 30 years old. Loggers call them gravity forests. Trees literally topple from unstable ground layered with 500,000+ tons of trash. These forests defy logic, growing on poison, bending under garbage, yet standing for decades. How long until they outlast us? Did you know 70% of biodegradable plastics never break down? 90% require industrial composting at 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Most landfills are too cold to trigger decomposition. PLA, a common compostable plastic, takes over 100 years to decompose in natural soil. A 2023 study found 70% of biodegradable plastics remained intact after 5 years in normal conditions. That compostable fork you buried today might outlive the Great Pyramid of Giza. What else are we being told to recycle that never actually disappears? What if something tiny could steal your breath underwater without you even noticing? These 2 mm wide jellyfish have tentacles 15 times longer than their bodies, like fishing lines in the abyss. In just 10 minutes, their feeding frenzy can drain 30% of oxygen from a cubic meter of water. Found in 12 million gallons of Southern Ocean water at depths over 2,000 meters, yet no one knows how they survive there. Here's the twist: they don't just eat plankton, they create vacuums to siphon oxygen directly from seawater. Scientists are racing to understand how these invisible predators rewrite the rules of survival. What other secrets hide in the ocean's darkest corners?